So we've talked about monopolies and perfectly competitive firms or markets in class. The next thing we're going to look at is kind of a combination of the two, which we call monopolistically competitive markets. So in a monopolistically competitive market, the firm is still trying to choose their optimal quantity. They'll face similar marginal costs, average total cost curves, like the ones that we've talked about from the other two markets. The difference is kind of there's this overall market demand for a particular product. Maybe think about this like soda or pop, however you want to call it. And every firm has a slightly differentiated product. So they're very close substitutes, but not perfect. And certain brands or companies will face different demand curves for their particular type of pop or soda because of brand loyalty or slight differences in taste. But they can't charge a price too much above what the kind of average price for that good is. If Pepsi starts charging $10 for a 2-liter, enough, everyone's going to, substitute away to the close substitute of Coca-Cola or whatever, some of these other brands. So each firm doesn't have to take the equilibrium price as given. That doesn't have to be the price that they set for their product. They can be a little bit off of whatever the kind of average price is. So it's a little bit harder to determine exactly what demand curve they face, but when we're able to do that, we see that they will face a demand curve for their product, right? So just like the monopolist faces all of the demand curve because they're the only producer, this is the only producer of, and the example I gave, maybe Pepsi, right? So they're going to work off this in a similar way as monopolists did. So they're setting a single price based off of this demand the demand for their product follows, but they will still make their optimal quantity decision wherever the marginal cost of that last unit produced is equal to the marginal revenue. So notice here, for every quantity within this range, the marginal cost of that quantity is far below the marginal revenue if we were to set the price equal to whatever point would be at the demand curve at that quantity. Right? So for all these quantities, marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue. So we'll stop producing right at this last one where those two things are equal. From there, it's just kind of a combination of what we did with monopolies and perfectly competitive. The price that they can charge for their product will be the price that the last person was willing to pay for whatever unit we kind of identify as the optimal quantity. And that's reflected to us in the demand curve because demand reflects the marginal benefit of each one of these units. So the additional benefit of the very last unit produced will be the price that a consumer is willing to pay. So we kind of say here this is going to be the equilibrium price for the perfectly competitive firm. And we can see here at that price and at this quantity, the average total cost is far below that price. So we could identify kind of this rectangle representing the level of profit, kind of recalling that price is going to be the equilibrium quantity the firm chooses. I guess if we want to be complete here, we could specify the equilibrium price the firm chooses, and then multiply that by the difference between their price and average total cost. So this is how we would analyze a market that is not a monopoly, not perfectly competitive, but somewhere in between. Right? Each firm is somewhat a monopoly of their own product, but that product has very close substitutes.